blah, 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 blah. Ha. Hi, I'm Stan Walters. Welcome back to Inside the Interview Room, episode 42. Yakety Yak will cost you facts. I've seen this a lot of over the 4 decades of reviewing videotapes of interrogations. I've seen some folks who just absolutely didn't understand the concept of shut up and listen. And what we're going to talk about is you're constantly talking is really going to destroy your ability to draw facts from a subject. Now, let me give you some examples of this. Okay, first of all, there was a double homicide case. I was assisting on reviewing interviews for information, missed facts, and so forth. And I watched one of the investigators talking to one of the 3 suspects. He talked for 45 minutes straight without allowing the subject to talk. Who's got the information? That's the first question I've got. There was a subject in a double homicide case, and she later, after it was charged, was called in and asked about to the detective, I lied to them fellas. And she tells him, I lied to those other guys. He said, why? He said, they wouldn't shut up. They wouldn't listen to what I had to say. So I told them what they wanted to hear. There goes the facts. Study also talking about the difference between accusatory interviews and narrative interviews. In accusatory style interviews, winds up the interviewer does the bulk of most of the talking. In fact, the study showed that they were asking questions 1 every 20 seconds. How is your subject supposed to talk when you keep firing questions 1 to 3 times per minute? So we've got to give out. Now, I'm not sure why some investigators are threatened by silence. Like if I'm not talking, it means I'm not in control. You're in far more control than you believe if you listen to subjects. Now, to indicate this, another huge study, 4 different countries, major study. 6 years apart for these studies. They interviewed inmates about their situation and about their interviews. And they asked, under what conditions would you have talked? And the first thing they said was, the first thing they lead him to talk is if the interviewer would shut up and listen to them. That was the first thing. Then that they would be treated with respect. In a embezzlement case, I saw a piece of an interview of, it was a significant embezzlement. A guy had stolen from another cashier's cash drawer, several $1,000s. Authorities showed up. The first investigator, there was a pair of them, said, we want to talk to you what happened. There's a lot of things that can explain. We need to know an operation. You can help us. Immediately, the second interviewer chimed in and said, yeah, don't lie to us. We know what happened. We know what you did. So don't even start with a bunch of... And the guy said the moment that second interviewer started talking that way, he said, I stopped. He said, I was going to tell him what happened. But the second interviewer stopped me from doing it. So you can either shut up and listen, or you can get enamored with your own voice and yakety yak. Now, for those of you who've already picked up, Yakety Yak was an old 60s song. But let me tell you about another 60s song that interviewers need to think of. Silence is golden. Try listening. Ask open-ended questions and wait for the response. Be sure to hit the subscribe button. Pick up on next week's episode number 43, I believe it's going to be. Keep track of our episodes here. We got 2 more really good episodes I've got working on that you're going to want to hear. And remember, the choices you make in the interview room eventually are going to show up in the courtroom. So is it going to be Yakety Yak or is it going to be facts? Be safe. See you next week.